All right, we'll call the February 8th, 2021 regular meeting of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees meeting to order. As a reminder, if you're dialed in on the telephone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *9 to put your hand down. *6 will unmute your microphone, and *6 will mute your microphone again. Please wait until you're called upon to unmute yourself. Is there any staff or trustee additions or deletions to the agenda or consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
And a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Ms. Chancey. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Public comments, Mr. Nagler.
Good evening, everybody, and I am Rick Nagler. I'm the CEO at Lake City Medical Center. Thank you very much for allowing me the moment to give public comment. I have refrained from giving public comment for a lot of different reasons since the Lakeshore Hospital closed, but I'm feeling like with where we're at and the timing it is, I think it's important to state where we are as a hospital, our commitment to the community, and the plans that we have in place to continue to take care of Columbia County and the citizens with what we're doing. I want to start off by just giving a little bit of a history. I know a lot of you as members here have grown up in this community and have seen what the medical center has done. And over the last 20 years, when you start looking back at it, it's actually very remarkable how it's continued to grow and change and evolve to meet the needs of the community. I kind of want to focus on the last 5 years, understanding that where we stand today is currently licensed in the state of Florida at 91 beds. But over the last 5 years, December 15th, we did bring in a TrueBeam for radiation oncology to the tune of $2.7 million. We also, May 15th, expanded our emergency room to 24 beds at that time because the demand and the need in the community was happening. That project came in at $5.4 million. May of 2016, the third floor was added, 34 beds worth of capacity to bring us up to our current 91 at $18.1 million was invested in the community. And every stage of this, as we add beds, we add human lives. We also add employees to the community, tax-paying people that use our services. In February of 2018, we added a robotic surgery at $1.5 million and are currently under evaluation to spend another $1.9 million upgrading that robot to the next generation for our surgeons. In September of 2018, we also upgraded our cath lab. When we moved the cath lab from across the street into the building during that expansion project, we moved the equipment with us. So we took the opportunity at that time in 2018 to upgrade the actual equipment in there to the tune of $2.1 million. And as we stand here today, hammers are flying and I can hear drills and Dremel tools going upstairs on the shelf spaces in the third floor, adding 12 more beds as well. And that project's coming in at $8.8 million, along with an MRI project that we're doing in-house and upgrading all of our nuclear med, which also supports the cardiovascular system. In May of 2020, during the height of COVID, we also acquired Shands Live Oak that came into our co-ID here. And the company's commitment to that was to the tune of $8.7 million. And we're able to salvage care in that community that otherwise would have been faced exactly with what's happening here today with the closure of Lakeshore. I tell you all that from the standpoint of wanting you to hear that we're not finished, okay? Our major service lines in the community that we have, we focus on emergency medicine, cardiology, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, oncology, neurology, telepsych, laboratory services, and radiation services. I think it's also important to understand in 2020, of the uninsured care in this community, there's a rolling 12 months up through 6/30/2020 is with the way that year ran. We had already provided 72.8% of the uninsured care in this community prior to that. Local taxes paid in 2020 was $2.75 million. We treated 92,559 patients, and we had 6,848 admissions in the hospital that continued to grow. So the question becomes, and you've heard that, we're full, right, on a day-to-day basis. When I talked about the 12-bed build out with the MRI and the nuclear med that's going on, the phase 2 of this construction project, that if I had a 100-yard line to get to, is probably 75% through getting full funding from my corporate office, would include another 18-bed ED expansion. Embedded in that would also be 6 observation beds, an additional 10 more inpatient beds to finish out the 3rd floor, so it would be completely done. We also would be moving our helipad. Right now, it sits in the back, and when I get a little bit better drawings from my architects, I'm going to share that with the board. I'll definitely be sharing it with the reporter as well. Some really nice demographics of where our property is going to be changing with where we're going to grow. But we're moving the helipad so we can build a Butler building, move things inside, and actually expand our food nutrition services and our pharmacy, because just with the total number of patients you have to expand to be able to provide meals and give them to your community. I talked about that. Beyond that, I'm also engaged in what we call our master site facility planning. I don't have an exact time frame for that, but I can tell you that they're pushing me to roll into what it's going to look like beyond that over a potential 3 to 5 year, which we're looking at a new patient tower, OR additions, additional cath labs, and a new laboratory. So the commitment from Lake City Medical Center and my parent company is very evident in the fact that we're willing to grow to take care of the needs of the community and invest in it to a very high degree. So with that being said, I also think it's important to understand that our commitment to the community is the patients that we serve. Our mission statement is, above all else, we're committed to the care and improvement of human life. And I know everybody that sits on this board has that same feeling. I've talked to many of you individually, one-on-one about that. So our commitment to you as a board is that I have put in a proposal, so to speak, or an agreement back on October to be able to partner with this authority board to be able to start the process of getting more people qualified into the indigent care program. In that agreement that we would offer even some more financial counseling, because at the end of the day, when I pay my taxes and when I move things forward, I think it's important to understand that we're here for the patient. We're here to create avenues for healthcare, and we're committed to be able to do that. So I think in the long story short, even though we've never received any money from the authority board, I will tell you, we've always been strong partners to the authority board. We continue to want to be a strong partner with it for its existence, what it's set up to do. And we're committed to grow and take care of our community and invest the dollars in it that we need to take care of people. That's my public comment. I'd answer any questions from the board if I know.
Mr. Bigler?
Yes, sir.
A couple questions. If you could just kind of give us a picture of how the closure of Lakeshore Hospital has impacted your hospital. Sometimes, we have an image that, your people can't get in there, especially in relation to OB. We've heard issues of, somebody died because they couldn't get a delivery done. They died being transferred somewhere else, and this and that, and things are terrible. And, so I just want what was the impact and where are you at now? And if you can address any rumors or things of that nature, so we have a better picture of what's going on.
So to the first part of that question is, how has the closure of the hospital impacted us? It has added volume. It's a little bit of a skewed number right now because of COVID. Okay, the COVID numbers throughout the state at the all-time height of our census, critical care patients and different people we had. It was also CHUF was full and not taking patients. North Florida Regional was full. We were getting requests as far as north of Atlanta to take patients because hospitals were shutting down and going on diversion everywhere. And COVID was a big piece of that. The normal volume that came out of the hospital that closed on a day-to-day basis, to be honest with you, the 12-bed expansion would cover the daily number of admissions that would have to happen there. We do run at 100% capacity, and today, as we speak, I'm about 12 patients over my capacity, which we've created different care areas, and we're doing a good job of taking care of those patients. We have enough staff to do that. As we add the 12 beds, continue to add the staff, we'll be even stronger to be able to expand. As far as the OB side, it put a little bit of pressure on us right out of the gate. We saw some deliveries in the emergency room increase probably for the first month or so. But since then, one of the things I went to work on, because you can't just stand up an OBGYN program overnight, is we've partnered with Gainesville OBGYN physicians, and they've expanded their practices. Once again, getting access to people to prenatal care, getting people taken care of so it's not an emergency delivery was our goal. And since we've seen probably less than one delivery per month over the last month and a half. So to the rivers, if someone died, I'm not aware of that. It didn't happen in our hospital. It didn't happen anywhere near what we were responsible for. All deliveries that we've had to this date that have happened in our emergency room have perfectly healthy moms and healthy babies on the other side of it.
And when do you expect those 12 beds to be done? Like, what's that like?
July. And you're dealing with contractors. So they told me July. I'm pushing them to make it June.
Right.
Build this.
I get it.
You're only as good as your subcontractor.
That's it. That's it. I'll leave you
So,
that.
but at the end of the day, it's July. We're pushing for a quicker start date. And then our goal is to get the other one funded to where we can just roll the construction into the next piece of it. That's the overall company. We're not taking our foot off the gas. And for the record, clearing out behind the hospital is not where the expansion is going to be. I've gotten a lot of comments and, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And you know how Rivers goes, like, well, I'm building a mall. Don't say that. To be honest with you, about a year and a half ago, there was an invasive beetle that the Wildlife Commission came in and told us we had to tear down all those trees, and they left it a mess back there. So water runoff and all that different stuff. So we're finally just clearing that out and making it aesthetically pleasing, probably put a walking trail in for our physicians and our staff as well, until we do finally use it for future expansion down the line.
And how about your ER capacity? Is that you're handling all that?
We're handling all that. Yeah, we saw probably about a 20 visit a day increase, which is pretty much in line with what the hospital that closed was seeing. And once again, I think we're seeing it start to come down. Our COVID numbers are actually starting to drop. We hit some pretty high points over the last 2 months, just like everybody else in the United States. But as of today, we're seeing a decline in COVID positive. We're seeing a decline in ventilator dependent patients. And with that, we're seeing our ED volume manifest back out of what we thought it would be and what we budgeted for.
So you're saying there are plans for OB services or not at this point?
Not at this point, not specifically to stand it up and do that. If you talk, I mean, the reality, being transparent, the plan in Lake City was to deliver in Gainesville all along. It was our plan, get people piped in, get them with the OBGYNs, the physicians that were associated with my hospitals came up, set up offices, set up concierge services for people to electively deliver in Gainesville. And between me and the Frisco Sheehan's had the exact same plan. They had their level 3 NICU trucks and everything else like that. They were able to emergently deliver, but their overall numbers were declining so a lot because people were electively moving to Gainesville. Pardon me, now that happened. So the care and the access to OBGYN is really about prenatal care, preventing something from happening, getting people access to being able to actually have an exam and follow it is a lot safer than just having nothing and then they indeed show up. Does that make sense?
Do you have any data that prior to the hospital closure, what percentage of people delivered in Gainesville prior to Lakeshore closure? Do you know?
It's about 80%.
Yeah.
So 80% of births in Lakes, what county went to Gainesville?
Yes, one in Hamilton.
Went to Gainesville anyway.
80%.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, so I'm just telling you, the strategic plans of both companies were to send it to Gainesville. I mean, we've been trying for a long time just to increase GYN surgery up here from the Gainesville docs, because on the flip side of having to have a baby, there's also a population of people that would benefit from having an outpatient GYN surgery. And we've since been able to entice them to be able to do that since we bought the robot. But up to then, even those were going to Gainesville. My goal all along since I've been here, I've been back as a CEO for 3 years, is to keep caring our community. I hear it from community members, I hear it at Rotary, I hear it everywhere. What are we going to do to keep caring here? And I've worked very hard to do that. Yes, ma'am?
I'd like to ask, how many of the OBGYN that were on staff at Lakeshore are working with your facility?
0. It's not by my choice, though.
No.
He chose to stay here in town with somebody else. But we actively recruited Dr. Mark Dempsey to come over and join the groups to be a part of the community.
And the reason I ask that, these are doctors that already have established practices
Correct.
with the different patients in the area.
Yes, well, there's Dr. Mohan and Dr. Ada, who stayed here in town. And then, of course, Dr. Marquez was an employed physician through CHS.
Right.
Also in town, though, you have a lot of big groups here that were already here prior to the closure that come up from Gainesville, set up to a lot of clinic work up there.
So that Dr. Mohan and Ada are delivering in Gainesville? Is that what it is?
I don't know where they're doing it, to be honest with you. At one point, they actually instructed people to come to our ER to deliver, and we actually had to have a conversation with them that was lost. So,
Yeah. Well, without it, we were talking about this before the meeting. We were told by someone that if you have a birthing facility within 70 miles of a locale, you're not considered an underserved area. Are you aware of that at all? Or?
I've not heard that.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to speak with that. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question?
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the time, and I know we've been, I respect what you all are doing with everything that's going on. So we just want to do it right.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lemley?
I'd like to thank Mr. Nicholas for coming. I've been attending these meetings for nearly a decade. You as a board member are responsible for the financial activities of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority. Do not forget your purpose for sitting on this board. Be realistic and consider disposing of the properties. This big dinosaur is very costly, and there was no breakdown for each individual office building. And I don't know if you looked at all your backup material that the director provided cost. And currently, the monthly security cost is $13,840. Ground maintenance is $2,910. Water treatment, $500. Pest control, $632. There were elevator repair costs around $8,400. $212 for sprinklers. $186 a month for the fire alarms. $720 a month for the chillers. There was boiler repairs for around $6,000. Insurance is $11,410 a month. The employee cost of $8,157. This is a total of $38,381, not including the cost of repairs to the elevators and doors. This is a lot of money. And now that the Lake City Medical Center will be willing to accept the Medicaid payment rate, you are allowed by Section 8B of House Bill 999-2005-13 to contract with the Lake City Medical Center. The Lakeshore Hospital Authority should not consider trying to run a hospital operation or anything similar to that. Remember the reason why the Lakeshore Hospital Authority stopped operating years ago. It was for uncontrolled cost. Be realistic and consider disposing of these properties. The big dinosaur is costly. There was no individual breakdowns, and I haven't asked Dale about that. And something you also need to consider, if the hospital ceased to be a hospital, the parking lot would revert back to the fraternal organization that gave the property, and I believe that was the Masonic Lodge. And any funds that the authority has should be put in a trust. And I'm glad to see that these parcels that the authority is donating to the city are being closed out finally. And this was started a year ago. And Director Williams, can you provide any insight as to what's going to happen with these remaining properties?
No, right now, everything has been held in abeyance pending vetting the proposals that were shortlisted and a discussion on the part of the trustees about what options beyond that they may wish to consider. I think obviously at the end of the day, if there's no users or end users for those properties, they'll be put on the market for sale. But that's my guess.
And have any dates been at the last meeting to have a public input as to what happened? Are there any dates? Nothing was mentioned on
The
the.
17th was the first one, and by the 17th, we should have the dates for the other two.
Well, that pretty much wraps up what I have to say, and I hope the board will heavily consider the partnership with Lake City Medical Center, because it certainly does make sense. Why duplicate efforts? Thank you.
Barbara, may I ask a question?
Yes,
I've had several people mention what you mentioned about there being a reverter for part of that property to the Masonic Law.
yeah.
Do you happen to know, or do you happen to have anything related to that?
Not exactly, other than I went to see some of the people from the Masonic Lodge, and they were gonna try to find in their notes. That was like a lot of things here in Lake City, things were just done. You have water lines going through your property, it's never noted. Other than that, it's been a longstanding thing, is that piece belongs to the Masonic Lodge.
I've heard it many, many times, but I have yet to see anything that was documented.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I believe the documentation for that is in the minutes of the Masonic Lodge that they keep forever. But it definitely was property that the Masonic Lodge donated specifically for the purpose of the hospital. And if not used for that, to be reverted back to them. Thank you, Barbara.
And I was told to say, Miss Laurie, we have asked for a copy of it, so maybe
And-
we'll find it.
If the old minutes of the authority were ever located, they were probably destroyed. I know at one time they were with Powell. The original minutes, which are forever records, are not here. And Sonia pulled up back as far as 1986, and prior to that, they're gone.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get way back before that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's at the inception of the hospital.
Well, I'm just saying, the minutes are gone from the beginning.
Now, I can believe the Masons may have them, but we don't have them.
No, we don't even have our own minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask, I'd like to ask our director a question, and so Mr. Nagler can respond as well. So the hospital closed in October, it's February. Where are we at with that contract? I mean, they are the only healthcare provider in our county.
Yeah, it was included in the packet that we discussed at the last meeting.
Okay,
And of course, you were asked as individual trustees to take a look at it, to comment about any potential issues that you wish to have clarified, discussed, or were of concern. And of course, once that's done, it can be rescheduled for you to take a final action.
so it's coming soon.
Okay. May I address that issue also?
Yes.
Part of the qualification to be a vendor for our program has always been that we have access to the charts to audit the charts. The last time this was discussed with the medical center, they refused to let us see the charts. Okay? This was discussed before you, Ms. Jill.
Yeah.
She was here.
Okay, I mean, I would have to consult with my legal team on.
And I
disclosure,
understand
that kind
HIPAA,
of thing, but. off the
but they
top of my
sign
head,
off
I'm
on
not-
it when they
I'm not
sign up for our program.
I'm not seeing why we couldn't do that, but like I said, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on it. And if it needs to be a part of the agreement, then that would be a recommendation to the board to add that back in, to get it to me so I can send it to my legal and my people to check off all the privacy stuff. I mean, we're very regulated
I understand
with
that.
everything, but
I understand
it
that.
sounds, I mean, we're serving a community where you would want to be able to make sure that the dollars are going to the right place and that the care is improving and those kinds of things. Doesn't throw me off in my mind.
Yeah.
Does that make
And
sense?
because even the doctors that are part of our program, we audit their charts.
Sure.
So
Any other public comments tonight? If you're dialed in, a reminder to press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute your microphone. Not seeing any, we will move on and I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Got a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Douglas. All in favor, signal by saying aye. All opposed, that motion carries. Moving on to new business. Mr. Williams, do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees. The first item of business is a request to approve Lakeshore Hospital Authority Resolution number 2021-002. This is a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Authority of Columbia County, ratifying the chairman's extension of the state of emergency arising from the COVID-19 public health emergency. This has become a rather standard subject on our agendas, and all we're doing here is just continuing our state of emergency, and we would ask your approval.
Motion to approve resolution number 2020-004 as stated. Second.
This be 2021-002, I think, right? 2021-002. The front page of the.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, I'm sorry. I got the second one. Okay. 2021-002. I'm sorry. That's second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries.
And of course, in accordance with these resolutions extending the state of emergency, the chair is authorized to extend them on a weekly basis by proclamation. The chair has done that for the period January 15th, 2021 through February the 11th, 2021. And we ask that you acknowledge or to approve those proclamations.
Motion to approve resolution 2020-004, right? As stated.
Yes.
Second.
The motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Douglas. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Mr. Fiegel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be as brief as you allow me, but I want to make sure all your questions get answered about this item, the interlocal agreement between Lakeshore Hospital Authority and Lake City regarding the property conveyance. It was a year ago today, less 5 days, February 3rd, that the agreement was inked by the parties, interlocal agreement between the parties for the transfer of the 12 lots from Lakeshore Hospital Authority to the city of Lake City upon the conditions that the city would have the title search done, which they have, and have received a title insurance commitment for that, and that the city would in turn grant Lakeshore Hospital Authority an ingress and egress easement, which we have prepared and is on your agenda to approve that format as well. And we now have the quitclaim deed prepared by the title company. So the action item today would be for the board to discuss to whatever extent you deem appropriate and approve resolution 2021-003, which authorizes the chairman of the board to execute all the closing documents, including the quitclaim deed and 2 other documents, which are affidavits saying we're a local, not a foreign corporation, and that we haven't put any liens against this property, which is about to be conveyed to the city. And we would do that, of course, with the understanding and contingent upon the city executing the agreement for our ingress and egress, which is included in the agenda. And the executive director and I talked some last week about at least requesting that the city approve that in the future it would allow us to place a sign at the intersection of Franklin Street and Marion Street. We don't have any legal documents for that, but I think you want to make that request anyway. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have, Dr. Thompson.
So those 12 lots, if I remember our discussion from a year ago, it was for the new city building, correct?
Correct.
And parking lots, correct?
Correct.
And that if it wasn't used for the intended purpose of that, that it would revert back to the authority? Is that somehow in those documents or?
That's correct. That is included in the interlocal agreement, and that same language is included in the quitclaim deed, which is to be recorded. I can read it if you would like, but it's in there.
As long as it's
long as
in
it's
there.
in there, that was my only question.
Yeah, the chairman agrees and all that is fine. I just want to make sure it's in there. It's not used for the intended purpose. It reverts back to the authority.
Correct. And the interlocal agreement, I believe, provided that the improvements would be made within 4 years from the date of the deed.
That's on page 3 and 4 of the quitclaim deed as well.
Correct. Any other questions or discussion?
Can I make a motion?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve resolution number 2021-003 as stated.
Second,
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments? We have Mr. Sweat here. I noticed he just came in, the new assistant city managers. Everything good with? Okay. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Then we need to,
Extra set of the resolution if you need it, and as well as the quitclaim deed.
we also need to accept the easement.
Yes.
We'll need a motion to accept the easement for the ingress and egress from the city of Lake City.
Motion to accept the easement for ingress and egress from the city of Lake City.
I'll second, but I want to discuss something.
Got a motion and a second.
Stephen, did you have a chance to look over that easement for ingress and egress?
Which easement? I thought it was the second one. Were you talking about the one that I got the survey for
Yeah.
the FPL? Is that,
No,
no, there's two easements, right? Okay.
This is the road.
Easements for the streets that will remain open. Here's a copy of it. If you-
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm looking at right now, because when I saw the easements, my brain was going straight to the FPL one. I saw this one, I was like, hang on, let me grab that real fast.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting.
Yeah.
May I say it's nice to see Mr. Pickle here again?
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to be here. And to see that you all are still working. We
He's
still need you.
got an official nameplate, so I don't know if that means he's staying for the whole meeting or.
Yes.
Marilyn.
I did notice on there that it has, they're authorized to temporarily close, but it seems like everything that we spoke about with, from Methodist Terrace to the helicopter pad.
So it's only giving you, okay.
You know, we tried to track the interlocal agreement, but
Right.
so if it's not right in here, it may not be right in the interlocal.
Okay. But you're not going to stop our access, right?
Correct.
Yeah. doesn't stop us, right? And what would be, do we have any concerns beyond that? Do you have any concerns over it?
No, I just wanted your expertise on it.
And maybe I'm looking at it, but it's the non-exclusive easement for ingress and egress, as long as they're not being able to block us. I don't see a problem with that. And maybe I'm reading it wrong, but if that's what I'm reading here. Is that correct, Marlon?
Yeah, except for temporary closings for repairs. And there would still, I believe there would still be, even during those times, access for emergency vehicles and the helicopter pad.
Yeah.
We can read through it if you'd like to.
That's kind of a moot point, right? I mean,
Don't.
Not right
This
now.
point,
She's talking about future access.
Oh,
Could they strangle our access in the future?
Say it becomes a hospital.
Right.
Emergency.
But it's,
If I may, just to remind the trustees, and some of this occurred even prior to my employment with the authority. Over time, there have been discussions by the city as part of their community redevelopment plan to close, change, alter certain streets, access to certain streets, and et cetera. And some of those plans would affect access to Lakeshore Hospital. And every time it comes up, it's been somewhat of a moment of consternation and a discussion about how can we prevent this, or what are we going to do if this happens? So the intent, when the city asked for the use of the 12 lots or the dedication of the 12 lots, was to try to get rid of that as a problem in the future. And of course, by doing so, what we have does that. We now have an easement, which means if the city wants to close permanently any one or part of any one of those named roads, they've got to get your consent. And so you now have control, and we do not have to worry so much about access to that facility.
if my memory serves me correct, in the interlocal agreement, it stated that we would have to approve the, whatever that replacement is going to be.
yeah, it doesn't,
So that information is included in two recorded documents. One, the interlocal agreement, which is recorded, and then that is implemented by the actual easement that you're looking at now, that you would approve from the city, approving it.
right there. I was looking at them individually, but if you go down, except as otherwise provided, creators will not vacate, abandon, close, leave open, maintain, and repair the foregoing described documents. So it's right. Sorry, you got me nervous as I started going through street by street. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, they got us hamstrung here. Hang on. But no, they don't. So yeah, that part's our get out of jail free card. So they won't be able to close it down again until we all vote to give it to them. And I think Lake DeSoto is probably 1975 bone of contention. Yeah. No, I'm good.
It's unusual to have a easement for ingress and egress from a public body regarding public streets, but because of the history that Dale described, I think you thought it would be appropriate to ask for it, necessary to have that.
They closed off two of our access streets. You know, the parking lot on the side here by the playground, they closed that off. And then they closed off another one. So, you know, I mean, all we could see is that everything was closing in on us.
Any other questions? Yes, sir, Doc.
This is just a general question. We had, remember when we had the city, I don't know if it was you, sir, or not, I just don't remember. He looked at one of the maps, but we had that city planner showed us, you know, what they were going to redevelop here. Has any of the city's plans changed with the closure, the current closure of Lakeshore? Are they still going on with their, does anything change from the city's point of view or no?
Mr. Sweat, do you know of any?
The only thing I know at this time is we are looking at options for City Hall, new construction, and use of other buildings. That decision has not been made, and been made on Tuesday, the 16th. That's what we're currently at.
Sure, that.
I have not heard of any plans that interfere with anything at the Lake Shore Hospital area.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries.
That motion was to accept the easement.
The easement,
correct?
yes, sir.
Okay, the resolution was adopted. And, the other documents would be signed by you, Mr. Chairman, in accordance with the resolution. I'll leave those with you. There'll be 2 witnesses and notary.
Okay.
Okay.
Marlon, my understanding is the city has already authorized the mayor and other officials to sign. And you're going to make sure, coordinate with Sonia that we get the appropriate signatures and et cetera on the document. Correct?
Correct. And so that would be, you're a notary, Sonia, so that would be signed here. And then coordinate with me tomorrow, something about delivery of that to the city so that we can deliver it contingent upon their executing and delivering us the easement.
Okay.
Okay. Absolutely.
As always, thank you very much, Mr. Fleeger.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I know you're in very good hands with Mr. Coberline, so I have no reservations about leaving the meeting with him in charge.
All right.
Like
Of
your
the
name
legal.
plan.
No, I'll take the water though.
Thank you again, Mr. Fleeger.
Great to see all of you.
You as well.
Good evening, sir.
Item number 4, update and discussion, the summary of Lakeshore Hospital facility transition.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, again, I'm trying to do this monthly for you and for the benefit of the general public. We've already had one public comment about information that was contaminated. It's really to sort of be transparent and to show what it's actually costing to keep the facility open while we look for another vendor. And if there's any questions you'd like to ask of me, I'll be glad to answer them. But we try to update it monthly and give you an updated report.
Any questions on this? Okay. Item number 5.
This is a request for easement from Florida Power and Light. I tried to include in your agenda packet a couple of photos to kind of give you a sense of where this easement is. If you're traveling on Leon Street, which is right behind us,
Can you explain for a what is easement?
basically it gives Florida Power, in this case, it will give Florida Power and Light the right to place infrastructure across property that they do not own. But they do have rights once you approve the easement. In this particular case, if you go down Leon Street, which is right behind us, and you go down to where the Lakeshore Hospital Authority maintenance facility is, which is that tan metal building, and you turn into that gate, this easement would be immediately on your left. It runs from the street down to the transformer, which you can clearly see from the road. Now, what's unique about this easement, at least it was to me, is they already have an overhead easement there. There is an infrastructure, concrete pole. There's already an overhead power line. Some time back, CHS requested that FP&L put that infrastructure underground. And the reason for that is if that one pole, which is there at the corner of that drive in Leon Street, were to be hit and taken out, there is no power to the hospital. It feeds the whole thing. So it's been viewed as somewhat of a safety issue, and they've been looking to have it put underground for some time. So I was told that they needed an easement specifically to allow for underground installation, which is what you have. But again, there's already an easement there for overhead utilities. I have spoke to the staff that is there. Nobody seems to feel that there in any way is going to be any issue with this easement. And on that basis, and on the basis that we're correcting what could be a potential problem for that building in the future, I would recommend that you grant the easement.
And then when will they do that? They will do that soon.
Well, they actually showed up last week to do it, and we had to tell you, look, you don't have an easement. You know? The work crew showed up a little early.
I make a motion that we grant FPL an easement as stated by Mr. Williams.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Dr. Thompson, a second by Ms. Chancey. Any further discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. And the last item, Mr. Williams.
Okay, trustees, so when you look at your agenda and the consent agenda, you saw the financials. And you would have noticed on those that we have 2 certificate of deposits. One is expiring April 15th and one April 5th. Together, they're just a little short of $11 million. We obviously will be renewing these, and I wanted to make sure that we're okay with the renewal process. Typically, we would be at the very least required to get telephonic quotes. But before this sneaks up on us, I wanted to discuss that with you. I can tell you that nobody is going to quote you anything outside of 3 days before the expiration. I've talked to 2 lenders or 2 banks. Both of them said, we'll be glad to look at it and quote, but because of the rates and the volatility of the market, we will not give you a quote until no more than 3 days prior. So it's not like we're going to be able to go out and do a big RFP and those things, but at the same time, we want to be competitive and we want to give locals the opportunity to quote. So what I'm recommending we do is that we simply do it by telephonic quote. And we call every lender or every institution in town and we ask them to quote it. We'll also look at other investments other than CDs like money markets because they're competitive now too. As long as we legally can invest in the money market by law. I have not looked at that law lately, but you are bound as to what you can invest public money in by law. So I know we can't obviously exceed that. We want to make sure that we're within the limits of the law. But we're going to need to get you some rates. The meeting, and do we know the meeting date in April? I think it's after the 5th, but before the 15th, which means that I'm also going to ask you to allow the chair, based on the renewal, to authorize that.
Are you going with the same terms, 24 months and 6 months?
I have spoke to Mr. Powell about it to see if he had a differing opinion, and given what rates are today, he thought that would be fine. Just keep it the same.
April 12th is our meeting.
Yeah. So the one on the 5th will be before you have a meeting, but after the March meeting. So I can get quotes, or Sonia can get quotes, and then the chair can approve them.
But they won't be any good.
Well, see, we won't get them until the 2nd. And on April the 2nd, we'll get the quotes, and then I will review them with Brandon.
Okay, the way you were speaking, I thought you were talking about the next meeting.
Oh, no, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to explain we're gonna miss meeting dates.
So when you say all financial services in our community, I hate to have to be on public record, the word all, and then somebody come back and says, well, you guys never called us.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't want to be exclusive.
Right.
At the very least, we'll contact those that originally proposed. How is that? Make sure they all have a shot.
Yeah, I would probably be more specific.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that out. Because I wouldn't, I don't want to repeat of what happened last time.
I would think, based on what I know happened last time, that it be printed out, what we're interested in, and a copy of that with a return receipt requested, because we're at that point with this whole thing, sent to every bank in Columbia County, banking system in Columbia County. Okay, and that way, none of our local banks have anything to jump up and down about. If one of them says they never got it, and we have the signed card showing that they did, it's not our fault what happened in their facility.
We can do that, Miss Laurie, as long as y'all have no heartburn with them being able to return that electronically. Because they won't have time to do it by regular US mail, because they're not going to quote until right before the date of that.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't know about the other trustees, but to make sure that we don't have the debacle that we had before.
I agree. I think we
In
need a
writing,
trail.
send it, return receipt requested, and give them the date of April the 2nd and an electronic address to send it to. And if they don't respond, they have all had the same instructions, and it isn't our fault.
We can do it that way. That we are. And we'll do the one for the 5th, and then we'll do the one for the 15th.
Can't you do it together at the same time rather than two?
No,
Well, we could, but they're only gonna quote the one that expires on the 5th first, and then they'll quote the one on the
Well, the thing
15th
is-
second.
Instead of one time saying this one and that one rather than the expense of doing it twice.
Well, I was just thinking of that, but my concern is, within a 2-week period, they'll swear they never got the second one. They'll lose it, somebody will forget it. But we can do that, Miss Laurie.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
need a
know.
trail. I agree with
Yeah.
Lori. We need a trail.
we don't need to have what happened.
No.
So there were five, you go to every institution in our,
In Columbia County,
every institution, or the five that previously did it.
I go to every institution. It relieves us of being called bigots for one institution versus another. As long as they meet our qualifications that are required by law, what difference does it make?
You're good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Just for clarification, is there 3? Because I'm seeing,
I'm only showing 2 that renew in April.
showed 2 for 4/15 and 1 for 4/5 at the very top.
Yeah, we got 3.
Oh, we do. I missed that one. You're right. We actually have 3 of these. I'm sorry. I completely missed the one at the top. So we'll be doing 3, but 2 of them expire on the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Williams, this does not include credit unions, correct?
No, credit unions, no.
Right, just banks.
We good with that process, trustee?
I'm good with it.
Again, the intent here is to make this very transparent, open to all. We want to just try to avoid the problems we had before.
Need a motion to,
I would appreciate it.
Make a motion to approve the process of acquiring certificate of deposit bids as described by Ms. Chansey and approved by our director.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion carries. Staff report is in your packet. Hope you had a chance to look over that. If you have any questions, Ms. Cynthia is always available. Board member comments, Ms. Chansey.
Not that I can think of right now.
Dr. Thompson?
No, our next meeting is, when? It's coming up, right?
17th, which will be Wednesday week.
Wednesday week
Wednesday.
at 5:15 this.
Yes, sir. I think we're going to go upstairs just in case we have more participation than we normally do.
Okay.
Got to play it by ear for the first one.
Has it been noticed on the website?
No, not yet, but it was
has
in
been the
Sunday's
newspaper.
paper. We hope to get it on the website tomorrow.
I just wanted to make one comment actually to Barbara, right? Barbara, right?
Yes.
You know, when you make your comments, I want you to know that we are looking at everything, you know, and obviously you'll be involved in the process, but I was thinking of myself as a private citizen, like we're chosen to be here, you know what I mean? And that's really awesome to be involved. I just want you to know that. I think it's a good thing that you're involved. So your comments are often appreciated. Thank you.
Timberline, do you have anything?
I don't know who sent me this comment during the meeting of you guys, but whichever one you did, the answer would be no. Although Mr. Williams could easily cover the amount of those CDs, he could not quote on it. That's all I have.
He's just wrong, isn't
Yeah, I thought it, but I didn't say
he?
that.
Mr. Douglas?
Seems like all I have to add are jokes, so I'm gonna keep them to myself. So,
Fred forgets I'm married with children, no money, married with children.
When my seat gets his transfer of the property, the landscaping contract is done.
Landscaping contract, water bill,
but we get it back if they don't build.
3 years now.
No, it was 5. Now it's 4. Because it was 5 when we voted, wasn't it?
I think it was 4 when we voted.
Was it?
I think it said in here 4 years.
But if you want to change it, you can. Good time.
Mr. Williams, do you have anything else?
I do not, thank you. Mr. Chair.
We'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
That was a good.
What y'all think of the Super Bowl?
It's so stupid.
Yeah.